question.
Just a quick thing about budget. You touched on that already, but so if you review these grants, it seems to be on average people ask about 3-4 times more money than they ever could get on a good day. So is it more reasonable to ask for the money which is more reasonable you can get? Is there a downside of asking for a reasonable amount of money, or should you?
You can't get more than you ask for, so don't lowball it.
Yeah.
That's right.
So in our temple, we don't really have the budgeting. The only thing matters is that if we ask for less than what we get,
Yeah, we were also told on that exact point that we can assume that most of the budget is reasonable unless we see something totally out of place. So, but indeed, don't lowball it, and reasonable means you know how many PhD students, how many master students, undergraduates, that research program can normally support, and what would be the cost. So then there should be no problem on the budget side.
And the majority should be for students and postdocs, of course. 100% travel and other stuff will be a problem.
Can I just ask a follow-up question to that budget? When you say the lowest amount that you requested, is that an annual average, or is it the lowest, the year-over-year lowest budget? Like your budget's not.
You mean if you have 1 year that's low, would that be a problem?
Would that be the lowest that you would fund? Is that the question?
Not necessarily, no. No, it all depends on what bin you eventually fall into. It may or may not be coincidental with the lowest, with the lowest area, Yeah, so don't go by that, And the other part to that is, the first one answered the question earlier, is I've seen silly budgets come in, where people who are, let's say, ECRs, and they're asking for the moon. They haven't got the track record to ask for that kind of money. And it sends a very negative, tone to the committee looking and say, this is not reasonable. This person has the credentials to even think about this kinds of problems and so forth. So.
Just one question in the back first.
Thank you. My question is back to earlier research and PhDs. So, for earlier research, it's hard to have in the main supervisor some graduate student because it comes from a doctoral position and supervise. Maybe main students, not just supervisors. From your conversation before, I seem to understand that co-supervision is not valued as much.
It is valued. I think what was said is that if you, let's say you were a postdoc somewhere and there you supervised other graduate students or undergraduate students in that lab, that probably is not so important when it comes to HQP training. But if you are already co-supervising as a faculty member, that is a positive development, and that will be looked at it positively. My understanding was, and I think what at least I was considering, is that don't focus on what you did, let's say, as a postdoc or as a research associate, that how many undergraduates were in that particular lab or how many graduate students, and then you were involved one way or another with those projects. But that is, it's not going to make such a big difference.
I'm going to make this question. So does everyone agree? Because I've heard also very different feedback about it. Like any history of supervision is very important.
I think you can use it the way that I would suggest that you use it. So usually if it's not formal supervision as an independent researcher running a lab, then it won't really count. But where it can count is you can use that as the foundation for your HQP training plan and say, I've already done this in this capacity. It has taught me that the following approach will be successful. So use it, incorporate it, but don't expect that those numbers are really going to count in your table. They aren't going to count. Neither, for that matter, is being a committee member, which I forget what co-advisory position. The peer review manual tells you those don't count. They're just obstructing our view of who you train as a primary researcher.
talk about the future, how you want to set up your group. What's your vision for the environment you're going to provide for the students in your group? And don't worry about the lack of research. You can't have an independent record if you're just starting out. Everybody knows that, and there's as we said, there is a provision in the proceedings that corrects for that. So don't worry too much about it. Think about the future.
Yeah, I'd be curious about the panel's insight on how far can one push programs that involve interdisciplinary research. Just in general, is that oftentimes we see nice words around that being encouraged, but really when it comes down to the actual evaluation, how far can we push that?
Could be that that application goes through a joint review. If it is really interdisciplinary, let's say in materials chemical engineering, we have typically joint reviews with chemistry, with mechanical engineering, and interdisciplinary can be quite positively looked at, and if the joint review comes back very positive, that's great. So there is no downside to focusing on interdisciplinary research.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, it's a good point. I would ask you to think about we have two definitions of interdisciplinary answer. One is within your own comfort groups of EGs, for example. So if you're combining across within NSERC, then we have joint reviews, and that's what when we meet in college in November, where the group leaders go through that, group chairs go through that, and we have a separate meeting independent of everything, and we look at these what we call crossover applications and see who would be best. And sometimes we will overrule you as an applicant as to where you think your grant committee or your grant application will be vetted to your benefit. We will look at where it's best home for it and bring in 2 or 3 others from other disciplines. And when we use the conference call, I actually set up a final reviewers, we have a big book and so forth. So that's very highly, actually, it's quite positive within the NSERC system is to cross over, because that's been there for quite a while. Where it causes trouble, though, is when you go to other members of the Tri-Council. So if you move to CIHR or you're moving into the world of SHRC, that's where trouble comes. I'll be quite honest with you. Those have caused us more trouble than anything. And so when I've been at the committee table when neither of the groups want to take them on, neither of the 3 divisions want to take on this application, because they don't know where it fits, quite frankly. And usually they get thumbs down and say focuses. And I only name groups, but that's been the biggest single issue that I have seen. Less so with interdisciplinary, because we have groups going across and multi-group evaluations, and most of them have been very positive. Actually, it shows that you're taking initiative. You've assembled groups of people together who are thinking maybe in the same area, but from different points of view. It's when you're getting over into this other, what you say, I want people from SHRC, and I want people from CIHR involved and so forth. And so, boy, here we go. It's just, you have to be cautious when you do those.
So I actually have a follow-up question to that. Is procedurally, how do you flag a review for interdisciplinary research? As I understand from NSERC, you have to notify the all.
Yeah, what happens is, so some of these application comes in and it's flagged by NSERC. They'll call me, for example, my program officer will call me, and I'll have a look at it, and I'll call up the 4 sub-chairs and say, okay, we've got an issue here, we've got an application that doesn't quite fit any of the 4, and we could use some input from, say, earth sciences, or from environmental chemistry, or from whatever, and we will then say, okay, that's one, put it aside, and then when we meet in November, we usually have 2 or 3 of the group leaders there in 13th floor of NSERC, and we go through these, and we'll get people on the phone and say, look, do you agree? Where's this home for this particular application? But that's flagged very early in the game. In fact, they'll be flagged right after November the 2nd, the deadline,
And is that something an applicant can prompt, or is an applicant relying on NSERC's vision of their?
Well, the applicant in most cases will say, I'd like to have my evaluation preferably reviewed by EG whatever, but I would also consider EG so-and-so. And that usually sets a flag up right away. This person could be crossing over to 2 disciplines. And something like that usually triggers that kind of an evaluation.
So just from a job evaluation point of view, have I been doing a good work by telling people to call NSERC whenever there's an issue with interdisciplinary evaluation?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, it's for information, but no, quite frankly, eventually I get the call, at least in my area, I get the call. And they say, okay, what do you think? You know, and then if I'm not comfortable with it, I'll call up one of the 4 sub-chairs and say, what do we think here? We've got a really interesting one, but it doesn't quite fit under our terms of reference. But I could see, and I've got this big Bible in my office with everybody in the country who, in the United States, even Europe, who can review things in certain categories, you know, in French or English, 2 official languages. And sometimes say, look, let's go through these and see if we can find people who want to do reviews from the subject to the approval of somebody in chemistry or whatever. So, you know, it's all sorted out. And we usually have it sorted out by the end of November. And then the applicant's informed. You know, the applicant may not like it, but that's the decision. So.
I'm curious about the relationship between old funding and new funding. So I'm just submitting my first renewal, and I've gotten advice saying something like NSERC wants to see a big new question. They want something new and exciting. And I'm curious, based on some of the things that were said, I'm kind of thinking maybe that's not. That they don't want to fund the same old thing, they want to fund something new. I'm wondering what you would think of that, and should I be funding a different facet of my research program, or sort of showing what I've done, and then here's the next question.
You mean your first renewal?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe, my advice to you would be, it's an old sailing term, stay the course. If you see something that's working for you, and you started this program with your division, with your EG, then they're going to be looking for, no one sees the past applications, so please make sure that you understand that what you put in 5 years ago is not on the table. But when you do your progress on what you've been doing, that's going to come out somehow. And there's nothing wrong, quite frankly, with saying, look, at 5 years ago, I had 2 topics that I was working on, for example. And I have a program, I have a game plan in mind for 10, 15 years, whatever. But suddenly I found another area that's exciting and new that spins off from one of these. And there's absolutely, in fact, I encourage you to think that way in your first renewal, is to go off and say, I want to do another topic and you become involved with. But if you're going to look at the automobile strength of bumpers on automobiles, next year you want to go fly with whatever, you want to make a new drone, you say, where is this person going? That's the point that we're looking for, but there's nothing wrong. In
So
fact,
spin-off, yes.
Absolutely.
Jumping ship, no.
Yeah, no.
Maybe. I would say that you can make a justification for a change in course. It sounds like that's not what you're talking about, but I would say there's sort of 2 extremes. One word that comes up sometimes in evaluations is this just incremental? Are we just going like, we're on rung number 2, we're moving to rung number 3, maybe 2.5. We're just sort of moving step by step by step. Like I could have predicted where this was going to go 15 years ago. You don't want that, right? You want innovation. So you want to be sure that within your discipline, you're tracking where things are going and you're aware of where opportunities are. So I think you always want to have, no, not always, but there's merit in having safe bets, projects that are incremental, but there's also looking to getting into those higher categories, kind of go, well, here's a risk I can take, that because of something that I've learned or because of some opportunity that I see, if you see that, for sure, build it in there, but probably don't make it 100% of your proposal, right? You want to have things at different risk stages. In terms of, sorry. Yeah. In terms of changing directions, I would say early in your career, and I know the criteria are all the same, but you kind of want to have you want to be able to believe that a change in direction is likely to be successful. So if it's from here to there, I don't know, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, right? But if it's from here to here to here, have you made those kinds of jumps before? Can you build the credibility where we're like, that is a bet worth taking?